Well, hey, Dave Melenda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. I every week scour the world to find people that I want to be like and I want to learn from. And I have to say, this one I've been traveling from afar, watching her for years and years and years, and she finally agreed to jump on our show. So I'm super honored to be hanging out with Jill Konrath. How are you today?
I'm really good, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, oh my gosh, I read this that there's 145,000 people that are following you and want to learn from you. You've wrote 4 books on sales. You're best-selling author, keynote speaker around the country, if not the world. And I'm just like, man, I've been following you for a long time on the sales side. And then I find out that you finally found out what you wanted to do when you grow up. So we're going to
Isn't that funny?
exactly. We're going to cover all that. So,
Yeah.
but your focus prior to 2023 was really as a sales expert, training people from around the world. So, that's where I kind of want to start. I love sales. We love talking about that here. How did you find that? What was there something special for you that got you to go there?
Into sales?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in their right mind sometimes wants to go into sales. And I think a lot of people feel that way and they end up coming to sales sideways. And I had been a high school teacher and I wanted to get out of teaching. I couldn't find anybody to hire me because it was back, before women were doing a lot of really good jobs.
Sure.
I'd go apply at a bank and they'd want me to be a teller,
Yeah.
not put me in the management training program like
Sure.
all the guys got in. Okay,
Right.
so that was the world I lived in and grew up in. But I decided that if nobody would hire me, I'd start my own company. So I spent a full year doing research on what I could do, and 2 other friends that I'd kind of roped into my adventure with me. And I finally found a really good idea. And then I studied how to write a business plan and put together a really good business plan. And then I went to SCORE, the Service Corps for Retired Executives.
Sure.
And a former retired VP of marketing from General Mills, looked through the plan I'd put together with my friends and I, and he said, "This is really a good idea.
Wow.
It's timely. I think you guys could do it." And then he looks at us and he says, "Now, which one of you 3 is going to be doing the sales?" And I sat there stunned because I thought it was a good business plan and it should sell itself. It was such a good idea.
Yeah.
And suddenly I went, "Oh my God, this is like, I might have to do sales." And I leaned forward and I said to him, "We're going to have to talk about this." And
awesome.
Anyway, I was the one who ended up in sales. I got a job at Xerox. And from there, I never even went back to my other idea because I so enjoyed what sales was, because it was so different from what I thought it was going to be.
Sure. Wow. And you travel around, or you did travel around and help people with their sales. And that's so powerful to be able to not only be good in it, but be good to be able to share it with other people.
Well, guess what? That comes back to the teacher in me, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. It's like, oh, I understand how to do this now. I've figured out this little problem. So how can I help other people shorten their learning curve? It was a driving force.
Sure. That's fantastic. And yeah, for me, being in sales my whole life, I'm pretty biased in thinking that sales is really the key in a company. In any company, if you don't have sales, you're pretty much done.
Yeah.
all the other people argue about operations and all this other stuff. I'm like, at the end of the day, if you don't have sales, you're going to be a short-lived company. So
yes, that's right.
But it's kind of a naughty word, right? I mean, like you said, I don't recall, for me at least, Jill, in 3rd grade, when they said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I don't recall anybody in the room raising their hand and going, "Oh, I can't wait to graduate high school so I can sell used cars down in the corner," right?
That sounds so exciting.
Exactly. I want to get rejected every day. I want people to not tell me the truth. I mean, I can't wait to get into this. This is
and to make phone calls and to call people up and tell them, hang up on you. And I mean, that sounds
and
fun.
my mom said, "Don't talk to strangers," right? So I don't know where that transition from you're not supposed to talk to strangers to now I'm supposed to call strangers, knock on their door, introduce myself to them at a networking event. So that's so cool. From when you started till now, do you see anything that's changing in the sales world? Is there any feedback that you can share with anybody listening that, that you've seen?
I don't think we need to even go back to when I first started. I think we can go back to the last 2 decades.
Yeah,
With the introduction of the internet and everything being online, I think that's fundamentally changed how people buy. I mean, I know it has, because if you look at yourself when you make a decision, you want to look at what is a good decision. And so you go out and you do your research and you spend time on multiple websites, you Google this, you look at ratings of different things, whether it's technology or cars
sure.
or anything. You look at how people rate it on Amazon. You look at it, do they have a 4 or 5 star rating? And you read all the number 1 star reviews. So first of all, we have a buying, business group that can find everything they need, which fundamentally switches the role of a salesperson to not being somebody who's there to tell them about their product or service,
Sure.
but to help them figure out a good alternative for them going forward to help them achieve their goals and objectives.
I feel like sales has taken a back seat somewhat to that data, to that research, to that. It seems like prospects are a lot more educated, at least they
Yep.
think that they are,
Yes.
which can be positive or negative depending on where you sit in that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if someone's listening and they're struggling in their sales right now, what's one thing that you share with people to help them kind of get off the schneid, so to speak, where they might be struggling there? That's
Get
the
off
old
the
term. No one
schneid.
knows off the schneid. You maybe don't even know. That's a
I have never heard
term.
of that.
You've
No.
never heard that's a card term. And you're from Minneapolis and Minnesota. I thought for sure that's a Midwestern thing. But
No.
anyway, it's a card thing. It's getting off of status quo, getting off of just
sure.
sitting there. So,
Yeah.
what's something somebody could do right now to accelerate their sales?
Oh, I could list a million things.
Sure.
First thing I'd say, the biggest gap that I see in salespeople is they really don't understand their customer very well.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the number one thing. I mean, who are you going after? Who are your target markets? Who are the decision makers inside of those markets? But really, how do they, what are they currently using to get things done? Because everybody's doing something. They're solving their problem some way. So what are their options that they have right now? What is the downfall of those options? What are the business implications? What are their goals and objectives? And how does this all merge together? I mean, there's a lot of really good information that you can get. And I do recommend this to people that are going into a new field. You can start talking to other salespeople in the organization to really focus on this customer.
Yeah.
What is it? It's really the big mistake we make is thinking it's about the product or service.
Sure.
And it's not. It's about the impact it has on them achieving their goals. And so the immersion in the buyers, their journey, in terms of here we are today, what do we have to do next? I mean, if we agree we want to change, what's our process? And then start thinking about how you can help all the way along that decision process.
I'm surprised, Jill, at how many people are not using LinkedIn as a sales professional. I did a training with a group company, and there was like, I don't know, 18 people in the room, salespeople, and half of them didn't even have a LinkedIn account.
Oh my God, I'm going to pull my hair out when you say that.
And I'm like, you guys, and they're like, well, that's just for getting jobs. And I'm like, that's where you're wrong. I mean, like Jill said, understand your customer. What are the best ways to do that? In my opinion, is to do some research on LinkedIn, learn about them, find out what they're passionate about,
Absolutely.
learn what associations they're involved with,
Yes.
Which I think is really underutilized today. So I just don't know, if somebody doesn't know how to understand their customer better, dig a little deeper on that, Jill. What do I do if I agree with you that I should understand my customer better, but I don't have the tools in front of me right now to do that?
You can interview customers. I mean, to me, that was always one of the most important things. How are they doing things? And I'm not talking about interviewing customers that your company, you're going after. I'm talking about taking people specifically who have been newer customers in the past 6 months and find out why they decided to change. What were they doing? And you can go back. It can be a customer service type call. I'm just calling to see how things are going. And yeah, I'm kind of the new guy in town. I don't know this kind of stuff. So could you just tell me? And having conversations with fairly new customers, and I say fairly new because they can give you a comparison to what they used to do versus how things are now. If you go to a long term, we've been with your company for 7 years, who knows why they changed, and it probably wasn't the same person, and a different process. So but I really think that helps. And I also think talking to salespeople in your company and finding out from them what they've learned and what do you find are the biggest issues that they're facing and what makes them switch, and what is the decision process, and who else needs to be involved in the decision, because oftentimes it can't just be you. They've got a team of 5, 11, 25 people who are all involved. So the more the better prepared you can be for virtually anything that comes along.
Well, and if you're old school like me, I still just call customers and say, do you want to go to lunch? I want to learn more about you. I want to understand how I can help you. What do you, again, it's so fun to ask somebody, what are you passionate about? What do you, what consumes you after work, and some of the cool stuff that you get back, learning about their kids or their grandkids and stuff like that. It just takes it on a whole nother level. Now, the reality is that we're high D, high I, like we talked about from DISC. There are certain personalities that don't want to mix, business with pleasure.
That's right.
So we have to be careful if you're working with an engineer type person where it's very factual and there's not a lot of personality, that they don't cross over into the emotional. We got to be careful, right? Because some people don't want to open up about their personal life. So that's understanding your customer at a different level, understanding their personality, understanding what drives them and what motivates them. Why are people not doing that? It seems so simple. It's kind of like fishing, right? When you know what you're fishing for, you don't just throw a bobber in and like, whatever I get. Most people have a fish in mind. So why are people not doing this, you think, Jill?
I don't know.
Right? We wouldn't have a job if they did. So I guess don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
No. Right? I honestly don't. I mean, to me, I've always thought of sales as a thinking profession and a service profession. And I think a lot of people view it as a selling profession, where let me tell you about what we can do and how we can do it. But the reality of it is, to be really good at sales, you have to really think. I mean, you have to say, like I said, who am I calling on? What's going on? How can I ensure that this time that I have with this person, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in person or on the phone, how can I ensure that it was a valuable meeting and that this person wants to talk to me again? Because to me, you have failed if you only have one interaction. You failed. I mean, the reality is it takes multiple conversations,
right,
to move people along. But people don't think that they failed, or they think that the guy's stupid for not getting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting because, I mean, really understanding the person you're talking to kind of starts at the prospecting, starts at the networking. I mean, it starts at the first connection there, where you're inquisitive about the people that you're talking to. And if you don't have a bunch of questions in your pocket lined up to be able to ask somebody, then it's an awkward discussion, because then the only thing you know how to talk about is yourself.
Oh God. And they're so interested in that, right?
We've all been with people that just love to talk about themselves. And it's kind of, for a minute or two, it's interesting. If they're not going to reciprocate and say, hey, Jill, tell me about yourself, it gets really dry and one-sided. And oh my gosh, I think I got to go to, I got to get a drink. I'll be back or whatever, right? You just excuse yourself from that. But if you don't start that process, making it about them, it normally then just continues to be about you or your company.
Which leads to a downward spiral, not an upward spiral.
Absolutely. People love talking about themselves. I think that's awesome. So I love to ask questions, whatever they are, and it's fun to ask questions. That it's really cool when somebody says, oh my gosh, I've never thought of that. No one's ever asked me that before, right? Because then you tend to get the real answer, not the ones that they have already planned out. So when you say, so what do you do at ABC company? I mean, that's everybody does that, right? So you got to
Right.
come up with some really unique and interesting questions along the way. So that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back. So I'm going to transition because you're super excited about what's really possible. And so I want to spend some time with that. So for people listening that don't know you, I mean, you've spent your whole career, the majority of it, being a leading voice in sales. Again, 145,000 people are following you, looking for information from you. But for whatever reason, why wasn't that enough? I was like always learning from you. I felt like you were genuine, fulfilled, life was good. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, something's going on here. So what
Yeah, a lot of people were really surprised when I put out my sales newsletter, and it says I'm quitting, and here's why. I mean,
we're done here.
I'm quitting. Yeah, I'm quitting. So the question is, what got me to that point that I'm, sending out this newsletter, it's throwing up my arms and saying, I'm done. I mean, let me just say, I love sales and I've always loved sales, but I saw something that I felt that I needed to do even more. And I'll backtrack a little bit. When I sat down to write Selling to Big Companies, which was my first book, and it came out in 2005 or 2006. I had read a book called Your Higher Goal, and it said when you sit down to do something, ask yourself, what is your higher goal in doing this? And so there I am. I'm at my computer, ready to start writing this first book of mine. And I said, oh, Jill, you forgot to ask, what's your highest goal? So I asked myself that. And the first thing I answered was, I'm going to show people how to sell to big companies. And I thought, well, that's so obvious. But a voice inside of me screamed, no, it's not.
Uh-oh.
And I had never had a voice scream at me that I didn't generate that thought. It was like somebody else was talking to me and saying, no, Jill, that's not your highest goal. And I stopped and I just sat there, and it came back that your highest goal is to make people feel it's possible to sell to big companies, because if they don't feel it's possible, if they're looking at this big company in their territory and they go, oh, I'd love to do business with that company, but I'm just me, or I'm just a small company, and why would they ever talk to me? So my goal was to make people feel that it was possible to do that, which meant that I had to I had to tell all about how I learned things, not that I'm so damn smart. You know what I mean? I mean, everything that I learned is because I somehow made some stupid mistake along the way. Okay, so that's setting it back. But that's the first time what's really possible came into my mind. My difference, I'm here to make people feel it's possible.
Yeah.
And so what's changed over the last decade, a little longer? I've become so frustrated with the division in our country in terms of left and right, red and blue, that kind of thing, and inability to get things done that the majority of us agree on.
Sure.
The majority of us agree on these things. For example, I just listened to something the other day by Patriotic Millionaires. Believe it or not, that is a website.
Wow.
But millionaires, and their goal is to raise taxes on people like them, because they think that the way our tax system is set up, it's not good for the economy, and the rich people should pay more. Okay, 71% of Republicans and 80% of Democrats feel that that's a good idea. Well, here's a majority of the country feeling like this is a good idea, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. So my goal is to help people feel it's possible to change the future, because we got a lot of work to do if we want to have a sustainable world from an environmental perspective, from a family perspective. If we want to pass it on to our kids and our grandkids, we got work to do. We can't just look out there and say, look at them, they're fighting again, or they're not doing anything, or it's the other person's fault. It isn't just the other person's fault. We have a role in this too. And the reality of it is, as a voter, we can vote and change things, and we can raise certain issues, and we can do a lot of different things. So I just felt I had to do that was more important to the world right now, to do something to not to heal the divide just from an emotional standpoint, but to get people working together to solve the critical issues that we're facing right now.
Sure. Well, and you talked about a challenge versus a problem. And so I was just curious if that's just, wording, or if that's actually kind of a thought difference, because a challenge seems something that challenge to me has a solution. A problem may not have a solution.
Yes.
And so I'm just curious, is this, just realigning some of our thoughts and our thinking to be able to approach this the right way?
Well, research shows that when people are given a problem, you've got a problem, there's a whole sagging in your whole body. It's like, oh,
Sure.
Another problem. And your
Yep.
brain actually shuts down. And research shows that if you say something is a challenge, your brain accepts a challenge and it starts sorting through the different things that you already know. It starts exposing you or helps you see other things that are happening out there that could be that you would have never thought of before. But a challenge invites ideas, and a challenge invites testing and experimentation where a problem needs to be solved.
Gotcha.
It's just like,
wow.
oh.
Yeah, no, that just makes total sense. I mean, somebody's the problem in the organization feels really like you're on your way out. You're the weak link. I mean, there's, that sounds like there's bad things coming. If I'm the challenge of the organization, I guess it's still not like I'm the star, but there feels like there's hope there. So, I like that research that talks about that sort of different. And so you started talking about perspective and better perspective, different perspective. So, are we trying to go through our day? I get a lot of people that ask me about positive polarity and being positive, and it's proven that it adds years onto your life being positive, and I just right, and it just is a better state to be in. Some people ask if it's like fake though. How do you genuinely be positive when you're in a extremely bad situation? So I don't know if you have any words of wisdom for those people that might be listening that like that thought but are struggling with, well, it's reality. How do you kind of work through that piece?
Well, reality didn't used to be reality. It used to be the future and something we created. Gotcha. And we are an infinitely creative world, and there are a ton of really talented people. But what we have to do is we have to get engaged, because once you get engaged in something, you see that other people, there's momentum and things are going forward. So there's a real need to not just sit back and watch the news or read your social media or whatever, because all that does is it sucks you down, that there is no hope. And, people can say, well, it's foolish to hope. Well, I think it's even more foolish to sit there and have no hope, because that sucks you down into a morass that doesn't feel good, that doesn't sustain life, that affects every relationship, that affects your quality of thinking, your ability to go forward. I mean, it's like you have a choice. And I think there's some things that from a personal perspective, even that matter. I think, like I said, seeing things as a challenge is good, but I think rather than beat the country up and say, we're really screwing up and it's really bad, I think we need to say we have an opportunity to create something even better than what we have. And yes, this is what we're facing, but it is an opportunity. We don't have to go down the slide the whole way. We can get off that slide and say, no, we're stopping here. We're going to look at all the ways out there and to invite more people in with more ideas. I mean, to me, there's so much more is possible that we're just tapping an ounce of it.
Yeah. So you're the founder and chief activation officer at What's Really Possible. So what is the company's goal? So you're only 6 months in or so. So this is a fresh start for you from your, last journey. This is the next chapter in your world. What does that look like? I mean, What's Really Possible? Is it a coaching firm? I mean, what would you define it as for the listener?
You'll laugh when I say this.
I want to hear it. Make me laugh. Come on.
It's not a business.
Okay.
It's a contribution.
Okay.
It is, it's not a nonprofit. It's just me stepping out there, because I have inspired a lot of salespeople over the years to do things, to look at things differently. It's me taking what is a strength of mine and seeing the world differently and optimistically, and believing that there's a future, and encouraging people in every way they can to throw themselves into the solution, not just sit outside and point about all those people who are others.
Sure.
So it's just my passion project is what
Sure.
I would describe it as.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, and I was raised that there's three types of people. There's people that watch things happen, there's people that make things happen, and then there's people that don't know what's happening, right? And so you're in that spot right now where you're trying to make things happen. And there's a lot of people right now, Jill, from around the world that are listening that are awed by that, because it took something to get out of the norm, get out of your comfort zone, get out of where you were, the success that you had, and jump into something new. Was there fear? Was there doubt? I mean, did that
accompany
this at all?
Of course there was.
Okay. I didn't know if it was just like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I know I'm doing, and blah, blah, blah.
No, God, no, I had no idea what I'm doing. And I'm trying to find new verbiage. I can talk sales talk, on and on and on. It's because I've been in the field for so many years. I mean, I can talk to anybody about any kind of sale and ask intelligent questions. This is something entirely different. And how do I speak to people? I mean, I've got the whole spectrum of people to speak to, and I know I won't appeal to those on the fringes of this world, but there are millions of us in the middle who can be tapped into. But the question is, it's like in sales, what are the words I should be using? How do I talk like this? So everything I do requires like tremendous extra effort right now.
Sure.
And it scares the living daylights out of me, because a lot of people who stick their neck out in this kind of thing, they get attacked, and they get attacked, online, and that scares me.
Sure. Wow. Well, congratulations and kudos for doing it. I think it's an inspiration for people that are listening that are maybe done with status quo, done with doing what they're doing. And some of us have that ability. Not all of us have the ability to do this. I mean, if it's not a nonprofit, I mean, and it doesn't sound like there's money going through.
There's no money going through.
So everyone asking right now, their mind, they're like, okay, how in the world does she afford this? So,
well, let's just say I've had a few good years. Okay.
There you go. Cool. All right. Well, we're living off our savings then. That's good. So hopefully the market does well for you. That's always going to be a help. But, the perspective, I like that different perspective and a better perspective. And I think that it gives me some ownership in this. I don't feel like a victim, because I actually have some control.
Right.
I run into people, Jill, that there are people that don't feel they have any control over their career. They have a mortgage, they have student loans for their kids, whatever, right? They have this stuff that they have to cover. And I mean, how do you free up at least from that thought that I'm stuck here forever? I don't know if that ever helped, if you transitioned from corporate into your
I did it. I've transitioned multiple times.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to do it with a leap of faith, but I really think a transition does require planning, and you shouldn't jump off a cliff. And if you have a family and they depend on you, it's like, no, that's not the right thing to do. But
guess what, honey?
I quit my job today. I'm going to start a company, and I have no idea if
I'm going to live on love. This is all it's going to be. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it requires prudence. I mean, I would not be doing this if I had to meet my annual paycheck. But what I could be doing is looking for a way to change the job that I was doing and how to improve myself at that job. And I could develop more skills, and I could get somebody to mentor me, or I could explore a whole new option. I could take more classes. I mean, there's so much more you can do as opposed to feeling like I'm stuck.
Okay.
And nobody is stuck except in their mind. And everybody, I mean, if you got fired tomorrow, what would you do? You'd have to do something.
Yeah.
I just, to me, stuck stuck is not an option. It's an excuse of
Sure.
not being willing to step out of your comfort zone and to see other things that might be going on in the world.
And that makes total sense. And I think that we can use it as an excuse. And again, you have to find that balance, right? Of quitting your job, no money coming in versus, you know, I don't know. I see a lot of people do side hustles. I see a lot of people take some classes at the local college to kind of explore some other things. But I just hate running into people that are stuck and they feel stuck, and it kind of exudes out of them, right?
Oh, yes.
And it's negative, and this is all I'm at my, this is it, you know, I've arrived at the end of the internet, and it's just like, man, there's so much more that could be there. And I love that you found a passion project for yourself. Is this your final chapter for you, do you know, or is there other
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, let me just say,
love
I've always seen my life in decades, and this is this decade of my life doing something along this line. And as new ideas pop up, I have no idea. I have no idea if I'll be speaking on this. I'm just starting. Okay. I'm actually just starting. And I really invite people to go check out what I'm starting, because it's kind of interesting. And I've got some, good stories on there. But my goal is to motivate people to take action. And so what does that mean I have to do? That means I have to step out feeling kind of naked, at the time. And like,
take some action. Yeah. You have to take some action, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Because if I don't take it, how can I tell other people to do it?
Do as I say, not as I do. Come on, that's a positive.
What?
Do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yeah,
that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. So I'm taking a big risk right now. I've covered myself financially, but sticking myself out into the world in a place I don't know. I don't have deep expertise, but I do know that we need to come together to do something to make this world a better place. So I'll do my job.
Sure. Do you miss the stage?
No.
Really?
And the reality of it is, no, I didn't. I only spoke. I didn't speak because I love speaking. You'll laugh. That a lot of speakers love speaking.
Yeah.
I spoke because it was a way to show people how to do things better.
Gotcha.
And it was just something I had to do in order to, it's just, I had to do it. And I remember when I first was writing my first book, and I read about how do you sell a book. And I thought, if I'm going to spend all this time writing a book, I want people to buy it and read the thing.
Yeah.
And so then I bought some books on how to, get your book to sell and get people to do it. And one of the things it said was, you need to be a speaker. And I went, oh, I hate speaking.
Okay. You didn't even like it. Wow.
No, and I hated sales too.
It just came natural for you.
Oh God, no. No, I got comfortable with it, and I got decent at it, but it wasn't what motivated me. What motivated me was finding new solutions for existing problems and challenges.
Gotcha.
And then writing and sharing my knowledge and expertise with other people.
Sure.
So even sales, like I said, I didn't want to go into sales, and here I am. What have I done in my life? I spent most of it in the sales field, something I hated, and I've done a ton of speaking, something I sucked at,
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. None of that was ever portrayed on the stage, or in any of your information. So
no, I got over it. Let me just say, you say, how do you do this? You get over it. You say, oh, okay, I have to learn this, and I'm going to suck at it for a while but I can learn, and I can study myself. I can figure out what to do differently. I can analyze it. I can get support from other people.
Sure. Wow. Yeah. That's so cool. So as we start to land today, I wanted to ask you, what would your tip of the week be for somebody listening? It might be something we covered. It might be just something on your heart that you want to get out there to the world.
I guess I'd like to say it kind of relates to what we were just talking about, being stuck. I really think that the biggest thing we need to do is start experimenting with things.
Okay.
And if the question is, how can I get better? If I'm in sales, I could send out 100 emails and get no response, or maybe get 2 people to respond. I could make calls. I could do this. I could have, demos, whatever you do, and I'm not getting the results. I mean, the reality is, why can't we try to look at everything we do and say, how can we make it better? How can we send out 100 emails and get 50% response? What do we need to change? We can't keep doing the same stupid things that are not getting you anywhere at
Yeah.
this point, but we can experiment. And I love experimenting because that's how you find out what gets better.
So you're the kind of person that loves to take different ways to the same destination when you're driving, or do you always take the same? Do you like to
Depends. It
experiment?
depends on if I'm in a hurry or not.
If you have the time, though, you're just like me. If I have the time, I love to take new roads to try and find new
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah, and so I'm going on I'm going on vacation, but I could not take a cruise vacation because I want to go where I want to go and see
Sure.
what's over there, not where I'm directed to go all the time. I mean, give me a backpack and let me hike some mountains and
Sure.
do things like that. Then I'm really happy.
There you go. That's
But
awesome. Cool. Well, Jill, if somebody wants to learn more about you, they want to learn more about what's really possible, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
well, first of all, they can go to my website, What's Really Possible, and it does not have an apostrophe in it. It's what's,
So it's
yeah.
what's really possible.com.
What s possible.com. It's got the really in it too. I'm really screwing things up. So they can find me there. I'm on LinkedIn. And you said I had a lot of followers for my newsletter. I have about 1/3 of a million followers on LinkedIn.
Oh my God.
So I have a few there too. So they can find me there and connect. That's the thing. But I would also like to, since a lot of people that listen here are from the sales field. Right now, I'm taking my Jill Konrath website and I'm putting all my content up there for free downloads, so anybody can get anything. You don't have to sign up for a newsletter or anything. That's coming. It's about 2 or 3 weeks away right now, but it should be done very soon. Because it's my gift to the world, and I invite people to go, take ebooks. If I could put my books up there, I would do that for free downloads, but I can't because I don't own the rights to them. It's my publishers that do.
Dang publishers. So the books are More Sales, Less Time, Agile Selling, Snap Selling, and Selling to Big Companies. Those are the books.
Those are the 4 books. Yeah.
Yep. So the ebooks will be up, and all the other stuff. That is so generous. And if you're listening and you are in sales and you don't go to jillkonrath.com and download some of this, then you know what, that's on you. So I'd love to see a bunch of you jump on there. And also what's really possible.com. There's some great testimonials in there. There's some great videos in there. Just really explore a different perspective and really find ways that you can get involved. Again, don't be that person that just sits there and lets everybody else get involved. Jump in. Hopefully this may be a call for you that you've never done it before. Do you help people if they are in that spot where do you do any coaching or any help on your side?
Nope.
Nothing at all. There you go.
No,
so go
I'm
to
not
the
making
website.
any money here. This is Jill just being Jill, out there trying to change the world.
Cool.
And do my part in making the world a better place. I mean, seriously, don't do anything. And I don't even want to turn it into a nonprofit because I don't even want to have to go ask people for money like a lot of nonprofits, newsletters. I mean, it's like, no, I'm not in that game anymore. So I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do and it needs to be done.
Well, we thank you for that. And we're going to do our part to get this out to as many people in the world as possible. So thank you, Jill, so much for hanging out today, sharing with us your vision of the future. And this is maybe next decade, there'll be something else. I'll keep following. And if there's something else, we'll get you back on the next decade and hear where that's going. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been fun.